Hello, and welcome to No Preparation, a podcast whose host almost went 6-0 in playoff picks last week.
So close so
I
far.
I am that host, Ian, as usual, and I'm joined by Carter and Emmanuel. And boys, I don't think we got the super wild card weekend we were hoping for this past weekend.
It was super wild. This is,
It was super something.
it was definitely super wild.
Someone described it as mild card weekend, and I thought that was
Oof.
pretty appropriate.
Oof.
So
Please, can we boo that man?
4 blowouts. We'll just call it the Ref Bowl in Cincinnati. And then just the stupidest football game I've ever personally watched. And I've watched a lot of Big Ten football in San Francisco, Dallas. So we'll start from the top with the Raiders-Bengals game in a minute. But what was your guys' favorite game of the weekend? Because I don't know if I don't even know if I could pick one.
I mean, the 49ers Cowboys was at least entertaining because it wasn't good. There's a lot of bad decisions, but it was entertaining watching the stupidity unfold, and with the bonus of Nickelodeon's broadcast, it brought me much joy.
Who got MVP
Dak, it's losing quarterback every year.
every year? Probably that game. That game was probably the most entertaining. I'm putting quotes here on entertaining. At least the 49ers played one good half of football.
Yeah, I was afraid that game was going to be a blowout, and it looked like it was going to be at halftime. So, I mean, it still probably should have been if Jimmy G hits his wide open
James
receivers
Garoppolo. James, what are you doing?
and also doesn't throw that inexplicable interception, they probably win that game by a couple scores. Again, I agree with you guys. That was my favorite game of the weekend. You know, as much fun as Kansas City Pittsburgh was at times, San Francisco Dallas was the best game.
The only other game that was even competitive was Raiders Bengals, but that always felt like the Bengals were in control, even though it was kind of competitive.
And I'm glad you
There's
brought that
also-
up because that's the first game we're going to talk about from this past weekend.
What a segue!
Raiders, Bengals, 26-19 Bengals, their first playoff win since 1990, or was it 91? Or was the 1990 season, but they won the game in 91, I think.
Something like that. It was like 20 plus years.
They're
Yeah, that's
they
right.
beat. I don't remember who they beat. Again, I didn't look it up. They said on the broadcast, but then of course the first loss in that streak was to the Raiders. So there's some poetic justice, I suppose, that their first win in 30 years was against the Raiders.
The Bo Jackson curse lifted.
So I mean, the Raiders performed a lot better than I thought they were going to be. Going to be perfectly honest with you, I thought this game was going to just be, Jamar Chase did play pretty well, but I just thought it was going to be pretty much a Bengals runaway, which most of the other games this weekend were runaways, but this one wound up being down to that last play and that last drive where they spiked the ball with like 20 seconds left, and then they turned it over on downs.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be one of the more lopsided games of the weekend as well, but the refs made sure to get involved as much as possible.
Do we want to talk about that? Because we had a bit of a spicy interaction in our group chat during the game this weekend. I know, Carter, you think it was the right decision, even if it was not the correct ruling.
I mean, so the refs were terrible all game. Like, I'm not trying to defend the refs here, but on the Erroneous whistle play, I do think just letting the play stand was the best way to go about it.
I think it's fine. I don't think it's like a huge deal, and it's not like Saints Rams from a few years ago, which wasn't a whistle, obviously,
absolutely
but
not.
that was game changing. But it's still like it does rub me a little bit the wrong way when it's like
I mean,
it's like
the
literally the rule book, and they didn't follow the rule book.
I just think it's interesting because I think a lot of people were upset about that play, and the fact that they didn't like make them replay the down. But like it's like all year we sit here and complain about the refs and the refs getting too involved, and we have a chance to just like pass on a bad ref mistake that we can pretend didn't happen, and we can resume the football game as if it never happened, because the whistle didn't affect the play at all. I think it was going to be a touchdown regardless. So we have a chance to just like take the refs out of it for one time, and everybody like wants the refs to be in it and for us to take points away from the Bengals, and we would have this whole controversy the other way if they took the play away, but it would just be for the Bengals because it was a stupid decision to blow the whistle because Joe Burrow wasn't even close to being out of bounds.
See, I think that's true. I think it was a ref mistake either way. I think the argument to be had is that you made the mistake and then you made it worse. Because you made the mistake with the whistle and then you didn't follow the rule book, which says you're supposed to replay the down on the whistle. I think, like, what if the ball had gone, what if Burrow had thrown the ball and it was dropped? What if the ball had been dropped in the end zone? And then we didn't replay the down, then it would be unfair to the Bengals, arguably, that the down wasn't replayed. Or what if he'd thrown the ball away? Right? Like, I don't think like you're entirely wrong to think that it's fine because whatever, it didn't affect the play. But I just think we should ref the game based off of the rules that they're provided to ref the game with, not because the outcome of the play was a touchdown. If that makes sense.
But it's like it was a good football play, and I see what you're saying, like if they didn't complete it, but if something happens in the play where, and I guess we're getting into like we're letting the refs have too much of a say over like when to make decisions, because yes, by the rule book they should have taken the play off, whatever. If there was a situation where that play happened and the whistle did have an effect, then yeah, we can like redo the play. But I just want to watch good football, and that was a good football play, and I don't want to give priority to a bad ref mistake over a good football play. Like I don't watch the sport to see fucking old men follow a textbook. I watch it to see Joe Burrow roll out of the pocket and throw a dime touchdown pass that, like I said, would have been a touchdown pass anyway. But
well, regardless, I think that crew is not going to get another game in the playoffs.
No.
So we won't have to see.
Usually, I think it was Schefter's article. He came with it out right after the game, where it's like, usually the crews that work that week don't always get the opportunity to go to the Super Bowl anyway, but definitely after that performance they're probably not getting another game.
I just think, it still ended up being a one-score game, so you could still make the argument, what if they hadn't, or if they'd stopped them and they'd kicked a field goal, they could have kicked a field goal there at the end to tie it, whatever. I just think they were lucky the Bengals played well enough in the second half. Well, defensively, there were only 12 points scored in the second half of that game. Both teams scored 6 points in the second half of that game.
Yeah.
That like it kind like I. Right, like I think you can complain, but it still feels like the Bengals were the better team.
Oh, for sure.
Like it's not like that. Like if that play had been like the winning touchdown, it would have been a whole mess.
Well, let's take it the other way real quick and say they take the points off the game and it goes to overtime and the Raiders win the game. Then all of a sudden it's like, what the fuck? Like they just took a free touchdown that the Bengals earned away. And we're having the same conversation, but it's like 100 times worse.
Well, no, I think it would be a little bit better personally. I just think it would be like, oh, it was a bad whistle, which like sucks, but I don't know. I know you have a very different view on this than the two of us do. I know we've established.
I think my take, the first reaction is like, we've seen them, blow plays dead in the past before, so why didn't they just follow the rule and like go ahead and replay it, because that's normally what they do. But I understand the reasoning why they didn't, because in that situation, if you take points off the board, it's probably worse than the other way around. Um, I would imagine that if a play wasn't a touchdown, then maybe they reconsider it. Maybe if there weren't points on that play, maybe they do blow it dead and replay it.
That's what I think.
Um,
I think
but
so too.
the because it was a touchdown, and I know you said you don't want them because of the outcome to like refer it because of that. But like it was just such a bad call. The ref's staring right at the floor. He sees that his feet aren't even
I
close
mean,
out of bounds.
yeah, the
His hands were basically up ready to do it, and I'm like, bro, what are you doing? What are
the,
you doing?
the real answer is just don't blow the whistle in the first place because Joe Burrow's like a yard and a half inbound still.
It
It
was
just
such a
seems
bad
weird to
call.
blow the whistle there because worst case, I mean, I guess you don't want to be like, oh, just leave everything up to review. But like worst, if a whistle ends a play, worst
Yeah.
case you let the play go, and then if he stepped out of bounds, you can look at that
Yeah, because you can look at
on
that.
review, and then
You can't look at the whistle.
I mean, you should blow the whistle if it's like, oh yeah, 100%. I'm like, or even like 99% sure he stepped out there. Like, there's no way he was that sure that Joe Burrow stepped out because he wasn't even
he was
close. So
also like a foot away from stepping out, so he wasn't even that close to stepping out.
right.
It's just such a bad call.
Looking at the stats here, and we won't spend too much time on every single game, but I'm just looking at this is one of the closer games, so I'm looking at the statistics. The Raiders actually did a little bit of a better job than I thought. Obviously, Chase had a pretty big game, 9 receptions for 116. But I mean, Boyd only had 4 for 26, and obviously the controversial touchdown. T. Higgins only had 1 catch. Mixon only had Mixon averaged 2.8 yards a carry in this game, and somehow they just couldn't. The Raiders just couldn't get it done on offense against what I thought Bengals' biggest flaw was their defense, and we'll see if it is this week against the Titans.
I
But they just couldn't get it done on offense.
That's part of the reason also why I'm okay with them not taking the points off the board because the Raiders had their chances. Like they literally had a touchdown opportunity right there before the end of the game to just to tie the game, and it was just like they just couldn't do anything.
They wasted it down.
Yeah, that's a whole. I'm amazed more people weren't talking about that. I guess people don't understand it as much because I saw people.
Yeah,
I saw like an expert talking about it, and someone else was like, "Oh, I didn't realize this when it was happening." And I'm like, can we like
it hasn't
hire us to
They
talk about football?
it hasn't been brought up that much.
they said it like even on the cast. Like I don't remember who was commentating that game, but they're like, yeah, if they get the first down here, they can spike it and really think about what they want to do with these last couple of plays. And at the time, I was like, I mean, yeah, I guess that makes sense. But then you guys were saying, like, I was hearing from other people, like, you should just have a play ready there so you don't have
You
to waste it
should.
down, which
It's
You
not the
should.
worst
It,
decision, but
yeah,
like it also looks worse because they turn it over on downs. If they spike
yeah,
it
yeah.
and on second down they call a great play and they score a touchdown, it doesn't.
well,
Nobody cares.
didn't he
So
throw an interception there? I mean, it was bad either
he
way.
threw
But
an interception on the fourth down, which could be your argument. Well, it wouldn't have
okay,
mattered anyway, but I don't think he would have forced that ball in the double
right,
coverage
yeah,
if they had another
no,
down.
you're correct.
They also got unlucky because Waller had an easy first, and the dude jumps up and knocks the ball with his head.
Oh my God, yeah.
Oh yeah,
That was just
Um,
unlucky because there was that play and then the other play on third down, Renfro fell down.
yeah, Renfro
Just
fell
slipped and
down.
fell down.
What was I gonna say? Oh, okay. So the spike thing, it still feels like it's not the norm in that situation to have a play ready. For whatever reason, it still feels like most people like I listen to a ton of broadcasts or analysts and everything every week, and it's like very few people have actually even brought that thing up. Like, oh, they wasted a down there. The numbers say you run a play there, and I think what's her name? Cynthia Freeland, who works at NFL now and does statistics and stuff. She tweeted out that after that play that their percentage for winning or whatever went down 5 points or something like that after that spike.
Yeah, it was one less
Which
down.
is which is like a massive change.
yeah.
So I think it's still not the norm in that situation. For whatever reason, it's felt like the norm is oh, the clock's running, the clock's dying, we got to spike and stop it. That just feels like that's the norm
It
still.
it just the thing to me is because it was like that fourth down. I believe it was fourth down before that. Um, like either the game is over or we're going to get a first down. So you should just like in my mind you should just have a play. Everybody should like when you go in to call the fourth down play. Maybe you don't want to do that because you don't want to confuse your players. But you go in for the fourth down play and you go, okay, this is the fourth down play. And then if we get the first down, this is the next play, and then you
Right.
have that ready. But again, I don't know. Maybe you want to focus on getting the first down first. I don't know. I think it affected the game, but only so much. They still had 3 chances at the end zone and couldn't score. So
Yeah.
it is what it is. Moving on. Actually, before we move on, congratulations to the Bengals fans for getting that win for the first time in 30 years. Um, I thought the celebration was a little more restrained than I thought it was going to be. I'm sure in the bars they were going crazy. But when Burrow came out and kneeled down, there just wasn't like the huge roar of the crowd that I thought they were going to have. Again, it's not a huge deal. I just was like taken aback. Maybe they weren't miking the crowd correctly. I never figured it out. It's not something I'm like losing my mind over. I just thought it was interesting that I thought it was going to be like this huge ordeal like it was last year in Cleveland. And it kind of seemed like everybody was like, okay, yeah, we won the game. And on the next week, it's like, guys, it's been 30 years. You can, like you guys can celebrate. Like it's fine. You don't have to look ahead. You don't have to look ahead the next week yet. You can celebrate the victory. It is what it is.
I think I put blame on NBC for not properly showing everything, but also, this team has a shot. So
Was
who
that the
knows?
production? Was that the game where one of those plays, like the pass went out of the side of the screen, and then the guy had to like move the camera to follow?
There's a couple times where the cameraman was lost
I
on
think
that
it was
play
that
on that
game.
game.
On
Yeah.
Deshaun, like a Deshaun Jackson catch, I think is what that game was. Is what it is. Moving on to the nightcap in the start of because that first game was like okay, yeah, it was fine, it was a good start to the playoffs, and then everything
Disaster.
went up, everything went sideways.
Just disaster everywhere.
The Buffalo Bills 47, the New England Patriots 17. It honestly wasn't even as close as that score would indicate. The Bills had a perfect. See, people were saying they had a perfect. I think they did. They scored a touchdown on every drive. They had a perfect offensive game, the first time in NFL history that's happened. They also missed 2 extra points, so it wasn't perfect. They missed 2 extra points. Anyway, scored 7 touchdowns on 7 drives. The Patriots just looked lost for most of the game. Scored a couple late touchdowns. I don't even know if I have any takeaways from this game other than I guess the Bills are suddenly a favorite, or one of the top 2 or 3 favorites to win the Super Bowl. I would say after that performance.
Josh Allen is beast. Micah Hyde is beast. That's all I gotta say.
I mean, there really isn't a lot to take away. It's Josh Allen played like Superman. When he plays like that, it's kind of hard to stop him. Uh, it's against a pretty good defense. Like it's not like the Patriots suck on defense. But when he plays like that, it's kind of like everything just works. Like even the first touchdown, wasn't he just trying to throw it away? He said he
Yep.
was just trying to throw it away, and what's his name? Knox caught it. Um, so when he's playing like that, when he's playing like he's running dudes over, the dude's massive. I think we forget that the dude's huge. He's like 250. And
He did run through a couple
he's
people.
just running dudes over when they have only 5 people in the box. It's like, what can you really do at that point?
Just an absolute destruction. I mean, it was 27-3 at half, and that was only because the Patriots kicked the surrender end of half field goal, and then it was
But yeah,
33-3. My goodness.
just big shout out to Micah Hyde on the pick. That was kind of ridiculous.
Sick interception.
He looked like Willie Mays out there.
He had a couple, at least one really big punt return too. I'm pretty sure.
5 touchdowns for Allen. That's just. I'm not sure you can play much better. He only threw 4 incompletions. The big thing for me was the Singletary. Like, they rushed the ball pretty well. Singletary had 81 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Oh yeah, that was like the best running game I've seen from the Bills.
Yeah, like if they can do that, they're gonna win the Super
Like
Bowl.
not Josh Allen running, like actual running back running.
I have a very hot, very scorching take here about the Bills.
Oh no.
If they score on every single possession, they're going to win the Super Bowl. That is my opinion of the matter.
What
I
a
don't
massive
know.
fire take. Ian.
Sorry. Actually, if they score a touchdown on every possession, they are
There
going
we
to win
go.
the Super Bowl.
Okay. I could roll with that one.
That's bold of you, Ian. Very bold.
It's funny how, like, I've kind of gone on a rant the last couple of weeks about how the schedule is the only thing that matters in the NFL, and I stand by that. Because the seeding, like, suddenly the Bengals sitting their starters and losing to Cleveland in week 18 suddenly gets them a game against the Titans. I think a team people are a little more wary about than they would have had to go to. Had they won that game, they would have been the 3 seed. They would have had to play New England, and they would have had to go to Kansas City this week instead of Tennessee. And suddenly this week we get Bills. We get Bills Chiefs, which I think a lot of people will assume is going to be the AFC Championship game. But if that game's super tough, then suddenly you get Tennessee or Cincinnati walking in. Particularly Tennessee could be hosting one of those 2 teams. So it's just funny how it breaks out like that.
It was best possible draw for the Bengals for sure.
And let's just skip ahead real quick. Let's just finish the AFC out while we're talking about it. I don't really have anything to say about Chiefs Steelers, to be perfectly honest. I watched it. It was funny when the Steelers were leading 7-0, and then it was the Chiefs remembered that they had to play a football game, and then it was over.
First like 10 minutes or so was real. It was like setting up exactly how everyone said like the only way the Steelers could win is because like there's like an interception from like Ben or something, and then they turn the ball right back over, and then they get the TJ Watt defensive touchdown, which is like the first check mark on everybody's how the Steelers pull off the upset list. But then it all fell apart, of course. But it was a very, very fun like first 10 minutes.
First 10 minutes of that game was what Ian likes to call Steelers fuckery.
Apparently, they didn't watch the Week 18 game against the Ravens because basically the same thing happened except that Watt returned the one against the Chiefs for a touchdown. Tyler Huntley had a bad snap, and he fell on the ball, and he decided to get up, and I'm going to make a play, and then he gets hit, and he fumbles, and Watt recovers. This time, it was Pringle? I don't remember who fumbled.
Yeah,
I think it
someone
was
in the backfield.
Pringle.
It was Hill or Pringle.
It was one of the
And he fumbles the ball on the snap, falls on it, then gets back up, and then he gets hit, and he fumbles again. It's like, just get down. Just fall on the ball. Oh man.
My only hot take here is I don't even know how hot this is. Are the Chiefs better off with Darrell Williams and Jerick McKinnon in the backfield than Clyde? They kind of look like they are.
It appears that McKinnon is very, very good for some reason now.
He used to be very good. He just always got hurt.
He also just like fits really well because they can dish it out to him and he can make people miss and stuff.
Okay, so maybe that's not a hot take.
Shout out to Nick Allegretti, by the way, scoring that touchdown. He is the brother-in-law of he's the brother of my friend's brother-in-law. I want to play 7 degrees of whatever.
Very nice.
Separation.
So I'm sure my friend's father was very excited.
Nice.
Either way, I mean, they kind of... The funniest play for me was the Travis Kelce touchdown. Because I was following the game... I was eating dinner, so I was following the game kind of like...
Passing touchdown?
No, well, that one was very funny, actually. I didn't even think about that one. no, the
What they called it, the Kelsey cat.
God, I see. So Mahomes had 5 passing touchdowns, and Kelsey had a passing touchdown. He
Yes.
could have had 6 passing touchdowns. It was the one. It was 14-7. There was like 40 seconds left, 50 seconds left in the half when the
Oh, yes, yes,
Steelers
yes.
punted back, and it was like, okay, the Chiefs have woken up, but it's a 1-score game. You know, this is a pretty good first half for the Steelers, and
They're
then
right there.
it's there. You know, the Chiefs get a couple dink and dunk plays. They get to midfield. It's okay. Maybe they'll get a field goal. Maybe it'll be 17-7 at half, and then it's just like a 50-yard touchdown to Travis Kelce. I was like, oh, okay.
Right. He does that, right?
Because they played like a zone. They put the rookie cornerback was supposed to pick him up, and he was staring at Mahomes, and Kelsey just runs right past them, and oh my god.
Not as
My,
many missed tackles, but it was similar to the one where they beat the Chargers.
Like
My friend who's a Steelers fan wanted to know why hasn't Ben Roethlisberger announced his retirement yet?
I don't think he's retiring. I think he
Oh no.
he might like try to come back for another team
No.
and
Oh
like hang
my
out.
god, dude.
Like
Well, actually, maybe he just wants to be a backup. Maybe he just wants to be a backup.
that's the thing, right? I don't if
I
he,
think he's made enough money, but maybe he just wants to, he wants to keep a job and he wants to be a backup.
the thing that confuses me is if he doesn't retire, like, do the Steelers just kind of go like, "Hey, buddy, we don't want you back," and then he just has to like
Good.
go somewhere else?
Probably. I mean, the talk this past offseason was basically that. It was like, hey, we're bringing you back for one season, just one season, and then we're done.
Can I just say that Ben Roethlisberger has been one of the worst competent quarterbacks. You know, he's not like Nathan Peterman, but he's been one of the worst competent quarterbacks I've ever seen the last 2 years, and the Ravens are 0-4 against him. 0-4. 0-4. Granted, one of those games is with Tyler Huntley, and one of those games is with RG3 and Trace McSorley, but still, 0-4.
Tough, man.
It makes me very angry. Anyway, the Steelers are out of the playoffs, as we all thought. This game wound up being about what we all thought it was going to be.
A rare one.
You know, James Washington looked. The thing I hate about the Steelers, and a lot of things, but obviously, is like the receivers looked good. Like James Washington was out here like grabbing like balls above, like right over cornerbacks. Like Deontay looks good when he's not dropping passes. Like,
And if you
That's a big
remember,
win.
James is the guy who came out in the offseason and was like, yo, I want more playing time. If not, trade me. And they just like, nah, bro. You're still here.
we'll talk. We can talk. We'll have plenty of time in the off season to talk about where we think a lot of these teams will be.
I kind of feel bad for Deontay. He had a bounce back year drops wise. He didn't drop as many this year, and then this game happened, so everyone's gonna remember this game and all the drops this game.
And he is dropping him down the end of the season too. It
But
was
it was
nice,
much
like,
less. It was much less
yeah.
than last year. Yeah,
And he started off like super good. He had like the least drops in the league for like
he
the
led the
first-
league last year, I
yeah.
think.
So, but hopefully he can figure it out.
No, regardless, we'll talk about Bills Chiefs in a little bit, but let's switch to the NFC real quick. Two very bad games. I mean, I guess you could say the same thing about the AFC. Two very bad games. We'll start with Tampa Bay, Philadelphia, 31-15 Buccaneers. Again, similar to a lot of these scores, not as close as the score would suggest.
Yeah, I kind of thought the Buccaneers offensively would, be gaming on the Eagles, but I had hope for some reason that the Eagles offense would be able to keep up at least a little bit, and they could not.
It was a tough. I have to fully admit, I completely forgot the game was at 1. So I
I missed like the 3 quarters, but in the end, apparently I didn't miss a ton.
Didn't miss a
Um,
lot.
it was very much like one of these weird games where all week in the media was kind of like, the Eagles might have a. Oh nah, bro, shut up.
I
I
mean,
was
they could
uh,
have, right? Like, the pass rush wasn't as good as I thought it was going to be. When a couple of the Buccaneers linemen went down, they were getting some sacks. They had a few sacks in the first half, and they were holding them.
Yeah,
They held them
4
to
on
a
them.
field goal. They only scored 17 points in the
mhm.
first half. Only scored 14 points in the second half. I mean, it's not like they weren't like just absolutely destroying them. The issue was that the offense was just awful. It was just so bad. I mean, they turned the ball over 3 times in the game. They couldn't run the ball really that well, and then they couldn't throw the ball. So it was like, okay, thanks for coming.
Yeah, you need your defense to play like insanely good if you're gonna play that bad on offense.
Yeah, when
But
they
when it started cooking at the end, I was like, "Are we about to see something crazy here?" And then I think they like just didn't recover the onside kick. But
it was somewhat similar to when they played them earlier this season. It was when they played earlier this season. It was also a primetime game. I don't remember if it was a Thursday night or a Sunday night, but the Bucks got out to a big lead, and it looked like it was just be a blowout. Um, and then Jalen Hurts did Jalen Hurts things in the fourth quarter because garbage time cover, and he covered.
It was the Sleepy Tom game. It was one of those games where they just don't score in the second half, but they win because they had a big enough lead. I don't know. This made me feel probably more confident in the Buccaneers, but I don't know. I don't know if this really told us anything other than that the Eagles are not as good as we thought. When
Yeah,
they couldn't run the ball and everything fell apart.
when they can't run, it's tough. Because
yeah,
early in the season, that's kind of what they did, right? Like they tried to be more of a pass team before they started running so much,
Yeah.
and they won that one
guess
game week 1, and then after that was kind of.
we'll have to see how much of it was the Eagles' offense playing bad versus the Bucks' defense playing good, which I'm sure it was both, but
Well,
against a better offense, we'll see.
we'll see this weekend. But before we get to the team they'll be playing, the just the stupidest football game ever.
So good.
Niners
Entertaining as well.
Niners Cowboys, our only seeding upset of the week, and probably actually our only upset at all. I don't think any of the away teams were favored, so it was the only upset of the entire wild card weekend. Our only wild card team that won a game. Jimmy G and the San Francisco 49ers.
Games.
What a game. What a game this was.
At least we got to see Deebo ball out.
James Richard Garoppolo. What were you doing?
This is just the classic example of you can't finish drives, you lead the other team in the game. I mean, they were just killing them in the first half.
It was
Cowboys
rough.
offense couldn't do anything. 49ers were getting pretty much yardage at will, except they were kicking field goals. So it was 16-7 because they had kicked 3 field goals to the 1 touchdown of the Cowboys. And then in the fourth quarter, all hell broke loose, where Mike McCarthy took an incredibly stupid field goal down 16 to make it 13, and then it looked like a genius field goal because then they were down 6, and then they couldn't score again.
It's like
So much
Don't-
happened.
bad field goal decision, bad let Jimmy throw the ball decision, bad let's run a QB sneak with no timeouts decision, or QB draw, excuse me. But
Motioning your tackles on
oh yeah,
a
that one too.
a
My
QB sneak where you need half an inch.
Kyle, what were
Half
you
an
doing,
inch. Don't motion.
Kyle? Like and again, these guys are geniuses, right? They know more about football than we'll ever know, right? But Kyle, you need an inch. You have one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. you have a quarterback who they said on the broadcast was something like 11 for 11 on QB sneaks in the season. He went to the Tom Brady quote unquote school of QB sneaks. He's 11 for 11 in the season. All you need is an inch. I understand if the play design you normally run this play with emotion, but it's unnecessary. Just do it.
Like, it's technically Jimmy's fault for snapping the ball before
Yeah.
the linemen were
100%.
set.
He won't say that, but yeah.
But just, like, make it easy. Make it easy for the play. Make it so there's literally nothing that can go wrong in the play. Nothing.
Why? Trust the 49ers.
That happened, and then, you know, even before that, they was like 3rd and 12, and Deebo got 11.5 yards on a sweep. Like, Cowboys defense, what are you doing? And then the Cowboys had the ball early in the fourth quarter. It was like 2 minutes. They had the ball on the 40-yard line of the 49ers, and they went 4 and out. Not 4 and out, obviously. They got to that point after it was like 4th and 1, and Kyle Shanahan punted, despite having Deebo Samuel and Jimmy Garoppolo, who's good at quarterback sneaks, on his team. It was just, who can lose? Who wants to lose harder? It was unbelievable.
It felt like neither team deserved to win that game.
It was so stupid. Like take both of those teams, eliminate them from the playoffs, and move the Chargers to the NFC. Just going drive. I'm going to do that. I'm going to go drive by drive here down the stretch, just so we can see.
Please.
Right. So it's the dumb field goal to make it 23-10. Then Jimmy throws the pick, and the Cowboys score a touchdown. 49ers get the ball back, and Jimmy throws such a bad pass that Kittle can't catch it, or else he would have fumbled, and the Cowboys would have had the ball in the red zone.
Kittle was like, "Nah, man, that hit the ground."
After all that, they get to like a 4th and 1. It's a 4th and 1, and they take the delay of game instead of trying to get 1 yard to win the game. And then they have another penalty on the punt, so now it's 4th and 11.
They did the go to the line, try to get it a draw offsides, whatever thing, and then just took the penalty.
But just quarterback sneak. I don't know, do something, because the ball was on the Dallas 49, and so they punt, right? And in literally 2 plays, the Cowboys get the ball past where it would have been if they had failed on the 4th down. 2 plays, not even, because one of them's an incomplete pass. So technically 2 plays, but 1 completion.
Not sure what the defense was doing there.
And it's first and 10 at the San Francisco 46. Dak is sacked. He throws an incomplete pass. He's almost sacked and throws another incomplete pass. It's called for holding. They decline it, and then he throws another incomplete pass, and they give the ball back to the 49ers.
Was that the drive they had 2 drops?
Probably. I don't know. Everything in my mind is a blur about this game.
Also, point out that the drive before the interception, he had a Uke wide open for 40 yards.
Oh, you're right. I completely forgot about that.
He overthrows him by like a foot or two.
And when they were up 23-7, he could have put the game away. And so they turn it over on downs. Give it back to the Niners, who probably should have gotten a first down, but they motion on the quarterback sneak, and then they have to punt back, and then the incredible quarterback draw up the middle for 17 yards, no huddle. Dak Prescott spikes the ball to stop the clock, end game.
It was
and Dak. I mean, I don't want to take any blame away from Mike McCarthy calling a quarterback draw in that situation. But in Mike's defense, they did execute it. Like, the best outcome of that play was worse than if they would have just taken 2 shots. But they did get the best outcome, and then Dak doesn't give the ball to the ref. He puts it down, and then the ref comes sprinting in from 30 yards out and trucks Dak off of the center and wastes and he picks the ball up and moves it and then moves it back, and it's an extra 1.5 seconds, and then the game is over.
He just absolutely trucked him, dude. He hit Dak so hard that he moved the center. The center moved too.
It's just a whole mess. That entire game was just an absolute mess, and it takes away from the fact that I think the 49ers played very, very well in the first half. You know, they didn't finish those drives, but I think the defense looked great. The defensive line looked great. I think Jimmy looked fine. The rushing game was working. Deebo is always very impressive. And yet, they arguably should have lost that game.
Won that game by like 2 scores.
I don't even know. They either should have lost that game or won that game by more. Who knows?
If Jimmy isn't a moron, they win that game by 2 scores.
Just a absolute. Why can this man is like the smartest offensive mind in the history of the NFL? Why can he not run out the clock?
Here we go with Ian's
He's
Kyle take.
physically incapable of running out the clock. He's lost 2 Super Bowls because he can't run out the clock. I don't understand.
He's too big brain for us.
He's
Ian.
the running game guy though.
He's
Like
too big brain for
Jimmy should have never had to throw that pick because they shouldn't have been throwing the ball.
Yep.
They actually, even 2 drives before that, they shouldn't have been throwing the ball. They were up like 20 or something. Like, I don't understand. They were up almost 20.
The Falcons were running the ball over the Patriots. He starts throwing the ball. The Niners were up 3 points with 4 minutes left, about 5 minutes left in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs, and they threw the ball twice, 2 incomplete passes, punt back to the Chiefs. I don't know how many more times it can happen. I hope it's gonna fucking happen next week. The Niners are gonna be up on the Packers, and he's gonna be like, "We're gonna throw the ball deep," and he's gonna throw a pick 6 or something. It's just it's infuriating to watch someone who is admittedly very good at calling offensive plays just like get a lead and be like, I'm gonna call a pass play with my quarterback who isn't that good. Like even with the Falcons you could at least, like, Matt Ryan is good. They had Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley, like, you know, that was a good passing offense. I wouldn't say the Niners are a great passing offense. I think what you should do is hand the ball off to Deebo 3 times and try to get a first down. It just doesn't make any sense.
It was an experience.
Anyway.
I will say on the Dallas side, I didn't necessarily hate the QB draw, but I think if you're gonna QB draw, you have to be aware how much time's on the clock and go down sooner.
Well,
They
I mean,
didn't
he
execute
even
on
went down like the right time. He just had to give the ball to the ref, and then you spike the ball, and you have your one shot from
But
like
if
as close as you possibly could have gotten.
Say the ref doesn't truck stick him, they get what, 1 second, 1.5 second more?
Well, it's
Yeah.
irrelevant because they could not have snapped the ball until the ref touched the ball.
Yeah. But say the ref doesn't truck them, they get maybe 1.5
One
seconds
play.
more.
I mean, it would have been one play.
They get 1 play. So I would have just preferred, like, even Dak said it after the game, hey, I probably should have got down sooner, but, I thought we executed the play fine. That's my only take on that.
I would have
I think-
rather had what Tony Romo was saying on the broadcast, which was you take a shot because they were playing, like the sideline. All the defenders were on the sideline. I would have rather just had somebody run up the middle and just try to hit them running into the end zone up the seam. I would have rather done that and seen if that maybe it doesn't work. You probably throw in the double coverage, but I'd rather have done that than the draw personally.
Or even hit somebody like on a stick route if you want to play the risky
Yeah.
clock the ball game.
I would have preferred either one more pass to try to get out of bounds, even though they were playing sideline. Which was very weird. Like the first few passes of that drive, they're like, no. We know a touchdown is the only thing that could beat us. Just send everyone the hell back deep. Just send everyone deep. There was no one on the sidelines. There was no one there. So that they let them get like 40 to 50 yards basically the first few passes of that drive. But I would have preferred either 2 shots at the end zone or the one more shot out to the sidelines and then go for the end zone. But
Just
I
throw it
didn't
up
hate
to Coop.
I didn't hate the QB draw. I
And pray.
thought he should have got down sooner.
Well, unfortunately, this was not the last game with horrific coaching mismanagement. Our last game of the weekend.
You're saying you're not a Cliff fan.
Never been, but I'll talk about that in a second.
He's a handsome guy, has a great house. Have you remember his house at the draft?
I'm glad he's doing well for himself. I'm just
He's
maybe he
bamboozled
should
the
be an
Cardinals.
offensive coordinator somewhere, not a head coach. That's all I'm saying. Our last game of the weekend, not even the weekend, it was on Monday. Thank you, ESPN. Cardinals at Rams. At least I got to watch it with the Mannings, and oh boy, was my favorite moment of the weekend was Kyler's pick six. Watching Peyton Manning react to Kyler. Were either of you guys watching the Manning cast?
Yeah, I was.
It looked like
I
Peyton
couldn't
was
get
going to die.
That's the best part of the
Like
Manning cast is just
I
how into football Peyton is and how upset he gets when quarterbacks do dumb things.
it was
It's
unbelievable because like Eli was laughing
I'm gonna go find a
and
clip.
Peyton looked visibly upset that Kyler had just done that. I thought Peyton was gonna have to like walk off the set for a little bit. It was incredible. It was my favorite part of the weekend. So,
There
well,
really isn't a lot to say about this game.
yeah. I was trying to carry my thoughts. I was gonna say this is just pretty much, what I think everybody thought was gonna happen in this game. Unfortunately, I bamboozled myself into picking the Cardinals because of the long running bit we have on this podcast.
I find it hilarious that you would have picked the games perfectly if
Yeah,
you hadn't committed to the
I would have
Matthew
gone six
Stafford
and
bit.
zero if I had picked the team I actually thought was going to win this game, but unfortunately, I did not.
I picked the Raiders for fun last week, so hey.
Uh, the Cardinals just look terrible. I mean, they haven't looked good in 8 weeks. They haven't looked good since Kyler got
Minus
hurt.
the Dallas game. They looked okay in the
And
Dallas
then I
game.
don't know what you can say about the Dallas game, considering Dallas hasn't exactly lit the world on fire and is now eliminated from the playoffs. So like, ooh, um,
I think the game went kind of how expected, except I didn't expect a blowout. Like I thought they'd at least score points.
I also thought it would be a little bit closer. I didn't think that the Cardinals would have an all like I don't remember the last time a quarterback had as bad of a playoff game as Kyler did.
It was rough.
Because usually, maybe you don't have a ton of yard. Like usually nowadays you don't have those like the one that always comes to mind is the Jake Delhomme one from like 15 years ago where he threw 4 interceptions and like fumbled twice in a playoff game. Like that's the one I always think about. I don't know if that was like '05 or '06. I don't entirely remember. But like that doesn't happen very often anymore. And Kyler, like, he didn't do that, but threw a pick six, threw how many? Either threw two interceptions. Probably should have thrown more. 2 picks. His QBR was 7.
I
That
think
is a stat out of 100. It was 7.
there was a drive where like they gained 20 yards and Kyler threw an interception and his QBR for the game quadrupled on that
Mm-hmm.
drive. Like that's how bad he was playing.
It was unbelievable how poorly they were playing. They also had a couple fumbles that they could have lost, or one fumble that they could have lost. It just like honestly the stats don't even do it that much justice. But I will say he was 19 of 34 for 137 yards and 2 interceptions. He's only sacked twice, and that feels like it should have been higher. But I guess he was basically running for his life every play.
Pretty much.
And there was he had a couple like one of those sacks where it was one where he like ran back 5 to 10 yards and then just like went into the fetal position. So I would say on him, even though the Rams defensive line was playing well.
And they couldn't run the ball at all. Connor was 4 of 19. Edmonds was 8 of 28. Connor had the one touchdown, but it was just a mess. And then to make matters worse, their defense wasn't playing particularly well either. I think they were playing fine. I think if the Cardinals are firing on all cylinders on offense, they could have won this game, 35-34. Or, they're built to win a game in the 30s because that defense is kind of built to get turnovers. But, ooh.
I think they're also pretty banged up. Both their running backs just came back from injuries. Connor and whoever their other running back
Chase
is,
Edmonds.
and Hopkins is obviously a non-factor because he's what probably would have been out another game even if they had kept winning. So it's kind of a shame because I thought this team was really fun to watch when they were playing well. So it kind of stinks to see them go out like this as like a neutral fan. Hopefully they can stay healthy next year and Kyler can progress because I do think he's really fun to watch when he's playing well.
I respectfully think they may need a new head coach at some point.
Well, he's going to what is it, Oklahoma or what was the rumor?
Oh, the rumor is that he might want the Oklahoma job. Yeah.
He's going to Oklahoma, so it's fine. They'll have to get a new coach anyway.
I just, I think he's a good coach. I think he's a decent play caller, but like, you can't keep doing this. Like he's every year I should find that tweet. It's like almost basically every year at Texas Tech they would lose like 5 out of 6 to end the season, and every year in the NFL he's lost like 5 out of 6 or 7 out of 8, or this year they lost 5 out of 6 again, and it's just like this team. Arguably, this team shouldn't have made the playoffs. They 2020 Steelered themselves into the playoffs because they were 10-1. Like they're in a tough division with good teams. Like
talent on the roster, though, it's just
that's why I think the team's. I think it's a very very good team. I just think he gets outcoached sometimes and they lose games.
Yeah,
I think the defense overachieved most of the season, and we kind of saw more of what they really were towards the latter half. But I do agree on offense. They should be much better. They should be way better.
Like, we all love Dan Campbell, but you shouldn't be losing to the Lions by 18.
Yeah.
18. You shouldn't get blown off the field by the Lions. Like, if they had lost that Cowboys game, would they have missed the playoffs? Or no, because I don't know if the Saints would have knocked them out or not, but
I don't think so.
Like, I don't think so. They were ahead of at least one person in tiebreakers, I'm pretty sure.
They beat the Rams once, but
No, they would have. I think the Saints would have knocked out the 49ers. That's what it was.
Yeah, because the 49ers got swept by the Cardinals, so the Cardinals would have eliminated the Niners, and then the Saints would have gotten in. Interesting. Well, I guess the lesson here is to win 10 of your first 11 games, and you'll make the playoffs, even if you're terrible. If you win 8 of your first 11 games, you will miss the playoffs.
If it gets me a house as nice as Cliff's, I'm cool with it.
Right, my boy Matthew Stafford did score 3 touchdowns. Was not 3 passing touchdowns, and they didn't need to rely on him as much as I was hoping he'd have like a big game, 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. But Cardinals kind of shot themselves in the foot, so they could just run it out.
Didn't need to.
Regardless, very happy for Matthew Stafford getting a playoff win.
I just like that it happened where he completed 13 passes. Carson Wentz, he completed 13 passes in this game, 2 of them for touchdowns, and that was it. That's all he had to do.
He did look nice throwing the ball, and OBJ looked nice, and OBJ even had a nice pass.
Yeah, I think that pass was almost 40 yards or something.
People be hating on OBJ. OBJ's dad might be the best agent in the NFL right now.
It's spectacularly funny that he's been very good for the Rams.
It's amazing.
Clearly it was banged up on the Browns, but also, I don't know, man.
Ian, I found the Cliff stat and put it in the chat.
Let me see. I'll pull it up right now. Yeah, so his last 6 years, or it might have just been his 6 years at Texas Tech, they finished 1-5, 1-4, 2-4, 2-3, 2-4, and 0-5. And then in the NFL, he's finished 2-7, 3-6, and 3-5. So he's 42-20 and 1 tie in the first 7 games of the year across his entire coaching career in college and professional. He's 22 games over 500. He's 16-43 in the second half of the season.
That's
had
crazy.
us. He had us in the first half.
Or for college, I'd be the final third of the season. That is not good. And
So they nerfed him this year, is what you're saying, by adding that extra week.
yeah, they actually got even worse because of the extra game. Like if this team didn't start 7-0, they would have been. Again, if this team didn't start 7-0, I think people would be talking about he needed to be fired because they would have missed the playoffs 3 straight years.
There's a little talk of him not coming back. You know, the whole thing of like usually teams don't like coaches on 1-year deals. Usually coaches don't like it either, obviously. But if they give him any kind of extension like that I'd be scared. Even if it's a year, I'd be very
I
scared.
think
if I was a Cardinals fan.
you give him a 1-year extension with an
And then fire him
out.
anyway?
Yeah, well, with an out, and then if they miss the playoffs this year, you cut him.
I could see
you get
that.
rid of
No,
him.
I agree. Yeah.
I'd just be concerned if you're here. Oh, Cliff Kingsbury's getting more years added.
I mean, they have like progressed every year, right?
Yeah,
Even
but
though that end of the season was so sad, so I feel like you have to bring him back for 1 year at least.
that's what I think. I don't think you can cut him yet but year 3 is also supposed to be like the year where you take the next step, and they didn't they made the playoffs, but I
They
don't
made
know.
the playoffs and they were banged up.
I think you have to bring him back for 1 more year, but I also think
I mean, JJ wasn't supposed to be there either, but he's actually the greatest healer of our time. So
That's
Shout
twice
out
he's
to
done
Russ.
it, right? It's Russ. Wasn't Russ on the show on Monday?
he was,
yeah.
Okay.
and they had to show me Ravens Raiders highlights for some reason.
Nice.
Yeah, so last year they were 6-3, coming off the Hail Murray against Buffalo.
Yes, that was a good.
They were 6-3, and then they lost the next 3 games, beat the Giants and the Eagles, and then lost their last 2 games to miss the playoffs.
And they lost the Lions again.
Yeah, they also lost to the Lions 26-23. Apparently they can't beat the Lions for some reason.
Lions got Cliff's number.
So technically they took a step up. They won more games this year, but I think the end result is a little more, not what you want.
Yeah.
And then
You could make the argument it looks even worse because they played so good to start the season, and then what happened?
it just looks. I just think it's you need to figure it out soon, because you have Kyler Murray and you don't want to keep wasting Kyler Murray. To be perfectly honest with you, I think that's your concern. You have an MVP caliber quarterback, and he looked bad down the stretch of the season. How much of that is on him, and how much of that is on the coaching will ultimately be what is decided there.
Kyler in this game looked like the Pikachu meme to me. It's just like, what? This is what the playoffs are? And he's just Pikachu meme. I'm like, bro, Kyler, what are you doing?
They just looked terrible.
And you're not going to get a lot of years where Russell Wilson is injured for a good number of games. Even if he's playing, he's injured, and Jimmy Garoppolo's injured. And in this division, I feel like you're pretty lucky to have the 7-10 Seahawks and 10-7 Rams or 49ers.
That's the thing. This was their year, and they absolutely collapsed down the stretch. Well,
I think we talked about that weeks ago. We were like, yeah, I think that Arizona is one of the teams I could see, collapsing totally, but they're already so far ahead. We straight up called that. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, they had to make. They were so far ahead. They basically had to make the playoffs. But this is basically the end result. It's like the 2020 Steelers. You win 10 of your first 11, or the Steelers were 11-0, and you're basically a lock for the playoffs. You just you're not going to do a lot when you get there. Well, moving on to this upcoming week, divisional weekend. Hopefully, some good games. They all appear to be good. Only 4 games this week. Back to the normalcy of 4 playoff games, 2 per day.
paper they look good.
These are some very, very, very good games on paper. And I could not say that about the wild card games. I thought they would be a little bit better than they were. But I think these are some very good games. Starting off with, because it's the Bengals in the early slot on Saturday every time. If the Bengals win this game, they're going to find a way to put the AFC Championship game on a Saturday at 2 p.m.
That would be amazing.
Bengals at the Tennessee Titans. We haven't seen the Titans play since Week 18, where they struggled to fend off a Davis Mills-led Houston Texans team.
Like 3 points, I think.
And this game is in Nashville, which should be to a favor of Tennessee, but they don't have the best track record playing at home in the playoffs, at least against AFC North teams. I'll leave it at that. Last time they were the 1 seed, they played the Baltimore Ravens in the divisional round, and they lost. So, some redemption here against the Bengals, potentially, or we could see, Burrow and Jamar Chase go wild again.
The good news is you get Derrick Henry back. The other news is, what version of Derrick Henry are you getting back?
I mean, even if you're getting 60%, I think that's enough. I mean, if you hope he's 100%, but probably not.
Yeah, I like the Titans in this game. I feel like sometimes like it happens throughout the regular season too, where people just kind of forget about the Titans and they're like, oh yeah, they're like after they lost to the Jets, and I think if they get Derek back, and I don't know what their receiver situation is. I think they're healthy, right? Julio and AJ.
I believe both are healthy. They played the last week, I think.
I actually could see them just coming out and kind of rolling the Bengals, who didn't look as good as I wanted them to against a bad Raiders team last week.
I am
so
also
saying is they should remember the Titans.
Okay,
remember the
we're gonna
Titans.
have to get this guy out of here.
Great movie, by the way. I saw that thing like 20 times when I was younger.
It is a good movie.
I am going to take the Titans as well. I definitely think the Bengals can win this game, but I think it requires the Titans to play poorly. I think if both teams play well, the Titans will win. But, I don't entirely feel confident in Tennessee, so this is not like, yes, absolutely, but I am picking the Titans to win.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. Like, it's not like a slam dunk. Like, I feel great. Ryan Tannehill's my quarterback. I feel amazing. But I do feel like, getting Henry back, even without Henry, the two guys they had splitting the work there, Foreman and Hill, were running the ball pretty well since Henry's been gone. They just, the line's just been pretty good, and they've been able to find ways to move people. The defense and the secondary, they have two of the best cover safeties in the league this year. So, nobody's going to assume that, oh, man, you're immediately just going to shut down Jamar Chase.
How did that
right?
happen? Their defensive backs were so bad, and then all of a sudden in 1 year, they're like, oh, yeah, we have great defensive backs again. It was
makes no
so
sense.
random.
It makes no sense at all. But you're not going to completely shut down Jamar Chase probably, but you do have two deep safeties who can at least help out down there. And then, AJ Brown's a beast. I don't know how much is left of Julio, but AJ Brown's a beast. So I do like the Titans here.
Yeah, that's the thing for me is, again, they might prove me wrong again. I think the Bengals defense just isn't quite there yet to make this like a championship level team. Like, I think, Trey Hendrickson looked great against the Raiders, and he got that strip sack that you could argue helped them win the game because they got points off of that drive. But I just don't know if the defense, like Josh Jacobs kind of gashed them last week. So if he's doing that, what is, Foreman and Derrick Henry going to do?
They do not have a very good run D. That is true.
And if AJ, he's, they're facing the one team that plays the same way they do. Oh, yeah, Chase is down there somewhere. Oh, well, AJ Brown is also down there somewhere too. So we'll just have to see. But I definitely am leaning Tennessee in this game, I think.
I won't be I'll be happy. I think for both of these teams because I think both could be fun teams to watch in the conference
It
championship
just
game.
feels like a season where the Titans go to the Super Bowl. Just feels like it's just what it feels like. Like it feels like a season where we're just not gonna have a storyline. I'm sure you could find a storyline because Tennessee hasn't been to the Super Bowl. Tennessee hasn't been to the Super Bowl in 20
Derrick
plus years.
Henry,
But
Super Bowl ring, Julio Jones, Super Bowl
sure,
ring?
yes, there are plot lines you could follow, but I think it's a little different than Mahomes is back, Allen's trying to get his first, the Bengals have
Right.
arrived. It's just it would just be very funny if it was like Packers Titans. It'd be like Aaron Rodgers. Also Ryan Tannehill is here, I guess. Speaking of the Green Bay Packers, Saturday night in Lambeau Field. Do we know what the temperature of
I
the
believe the high
game is
is
going
like
to be?
16 or 17, and the low is like 7.
Nice.
Well, the 49ers are playing Green Bay in the playoffs. This has never gone poorly for anyone at any point. I'm going to just, before our resident Packer fan speaks, I'm just going to say I'm taking the 49ers in this game.
It is the cursed matchup has showed itself. I feel like surprisingly confident about this game, despite it being a matchup that's brought me lots of pain over the past decade in the playoffs. I just think Jimmy is not as he's not Kaepernick. He can't do what Kaepernick did, and also as much as I love Deebo and I could see him going insane, our defense just feels different this year than the Packers defenses of old, especially with Z coming back and Jair coming back. Like this really feels like a game we should win, especially if Jimmy, gives us a mistake or two to work with like he has
He will.
throughout.
It's not an if, it's a when. It's when does it happen, not if it happens.
James, what are you doing?
And I mean, Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams are just they're goated. So not worried about the offense. But the special teams, which we have found out is ranked 32nd, that could spice something up along the way. Hopefully,
You guys should invest in some kind of Velcro on Amari's hands.
I think LaFleur should come out in practice this week and just say, just like not put a punt returner back. It's like, hey, we're not returning punts.
Well, they extended that guy we picked up when Amari was injured, so I'm hoping they let him continue it because he had like a 20-yard return, which was like the longest of the season.
No, don't return it. If okay, we want to put a punt returner back. Fair catch.
There you go.
Ball gets kicked.
He caught all the punts too, so that's all I can ask for.
Hashtag progress.
What was the game with it was the Cardinals game where the guy tried to do the thing where you step out of bounds and grab the ball, and he just stepped out of bounds with the ball.
No, it was the
Raiders game. It was the Raiders game. It was the Raiders game.
It was Marion Barber went back and
Peyton Barber.
Or is it Peyton? Marion Barber is the other one.
Marion Barber is no longer in the league.
So he went back, and you're supposed to step out and pick it up. He did the opposite.
Yeah, so just don't do that, Green Bay. Anyway, to explain my pick real quick.
Yeah.
I think Deebo is very, very good. I think they'll be able to run the ball because one Greg Roman was able to run the ball fairly successfully against this team, granted without some of its best players. And that D line looked so good this week. You want to talk about all the garbage that happened, the decision making from Kyle Shanahan and the decision making from Mike McCarthy and the whatever the hell was going on. The D line was incredible for most of that game. They have I've never seen a team like hockey line change on a third down. They had guys rushing the passer on second down, took all 4 guys off the field, and then put 4 other guys on the field to rush the passer on third. I don't know how you have that many good defensive linemen. It doesn't make any sense. And I think that makes them a pretty good matchup for this team. I think because you don't have to blitz. There's no, trying to blitz, trying to get to Rodgers. He beats you every time. It's the the Giants against the Patriots strategy. You just rush forward and you get to the quarterback. And I think they'll be able to get to Rodgers enough that it'll mess up with the Packers' offense and keep it a close game.
We got kind of a nice offensive line, and we got 2 offensive linemen coming back for this game. So, their defensive
Cowboys
line
have a
is
line.
good, but yeah, that's true. Although I feel like they're better like run protection, but still, yeah. I mean, they do, but I don't know. David Bakhtiari coming back, I feel like they might get back there, but I don't think it will be that big of a deal.
I kind of like the Packers here. I feel like after watching the absolute mess that was the second half of the 49ers in that game, I just cannot trust Kyle or Jimmy to make any smart decisions towards the end of a game. I fully expect Jimmy to throw a pick or two at some point. And even though they have all these like playmakers and all these freaks on offense, with Kittle, with Deebo, and all these guys, the Packers did improve this year. They had some struggles towards the latter half. They're getting a couple of guys back. Bakhtiari's back. You don't know if he'll be 100% of Bakhtiari, but he'll better than not Bakhtiari. So I like the Packers here to win. I don't love them covering the line. The line's kind of big, but I do like the Packers.
There's also the issues with Jimmy is not 100%, and I think that's part of why the line is so big, because there was a second there where people were like, is Trey Lance gonna play? But I'm pretty sure Jimmy's just gonna.
How incredible would that be if
No.
Trey Lance came in and win his first win as a playoff
Trey
game?
Lance legacy game
It'd be so
at
cool.
Lambeau Field.
They would crush Kyle for not playing him all year.
I'm obviously picking the Niners just because I want to. I do think the more realistic situation that happens in this game is it's a close game, and Jimmy just makes one of those plays down the stretch and they lose. Whether that means they're trying to come from behind and he gets picked off, or the one situation where I would be okay with my pick being wrong is if the Niners are up by like 15 in the fourth quarter and Jimmy throws like just a terrible pick. Shanahan refuses to run the ball, and then the Niners win. The Packers win by like 1 or something. It would just be very funny, if nothing else. But as I said in our A group chat the other day, and Carter called me out on it, just because I'm picking the 49ers doesn't mean if the Packers win, I'm not going to be like, oh my God, I can't believe the 49ers blew it. I just think they have a chance to upset the 1 seed. But moving on to the other NFC game for the title of who most likely gets to go to Lambeau next week. Rams at Buccaneers. Very, very good game.
My Cowboys are gone. my true love in the NFC is gone, and I'm if the Packers can get through the 49ers, I'm now fully on the NFC Championship heartbreaking loss ship that I expect to happen. But I think it's going to be the Rams because
you want them to win.
Because I want them to win. I'm talking with my heart. And I think like we probably lose to like either of these teams in the NFC Championship game, but Matthew Stafford, they like set him up last week to just have like a easy game, 2 touchdowns, rushing touchdown. It would be really cool to see him come out against the Buccaneers, who notoriously good at stopping the run, and he has to air it out and gets like 300 yards or 3 touchdowns or whatever, and against Tom Brady, who's like the GOAT. So It'd be cool to get a nice like quarterback dueling like aerial game, like heavy high scoring game. And I see the Rams like getting a turnover somewhere off of Tom Brady, or um, the sacking Tom Brady and forcing a fumble, more than I see the Buccaneers doing that. Even if Matthew Stafford is turnover prone here late in the season. So go Rams.
I am also taking the Rams, surprisingly, although I definitely, I think Tampa Bay should rightfully be the favorite in this game. It's just like every Tom Brady team. I feel like the Rams are like flashier, and they're probably like, I would say, they're the better team. But then I don't know, man. There's just something, and like Levante David is back. Bucs team's pretty good, but I'm going to go with the Rams because I think they just have a little bit more pieces right now. I think Aaron Donald is incredible, and he can probably get to Tom. Obviously, the Rams beat them earlier in the season. Yeah, Miller has looked incredible as well. I mean, if they can rush the passer like they did against the Cardinals, they might be a Super Bowl team. But also, I'm going to be a little selfish and pick the Rams because I think a Niners-Rams can Sean McVay be 0-7 against Kyle Shanahan, including an NFC Championship game loss, would be the funniest thing of all time. So I'm going with the Rams here.
I don't want it. No, please. I will. Surprisingly, we're on the Rams here then.
Wow, nobody on Tom Brady.
I'm sure Tom's gonna hear this and use it as material to kill them apparently and end the game. It's one of those things where the injuries are probably gonna play a big deal.
Do we know if Lenny's healthy?
No, I don't think there's been an update on Lenny either.
Maybe.
The last I saw was that both of the linemen did not practice yesterday. Wirfs and Jensen didn't practice yesterday. And then on the Rams side, Whitworth did not practice yesterday. So all three of those linemen are pretty big in this spot. Especially for a team like Tampa where Tom, yes, he gets the ball out super fast, but the one way that you can bother Tom is like you got to get to him. You got to get to him. You got to sack him. You got to hit him. You got to move him. So I feel like they'll get enough pressure here because even if those guys play, I don't expect them to be 100%. Wirfs is probably the best right tackle in football, but half of Wirfs is probably still better than nothing. Jensen is a very good center, so he's even if he plays, it's again still a bonus. So I think they get enough pressure here. Maybe Rady can throw a mistake or two, and then maybe Ramsey can at least control Mike Evans, not shut him down. And then Brady's forced to pass to these guys he doesn't really believe in. He doesn't really trust these guys very well. It's like, it's Mike Evans, Gronk, and then who am I throwing the ball to? It's Gio Bernard playing.
See, if Lenny was like fully healthy right now, I could see them running like heavy run sets with Gronk and their other tight end who's pretty good.
Cameron Brate from Naperville, Illinois.
There you go, Mr. Brate. And like Lenny could get going. If Lenny could get going, like I feel like that makes them a lot more dangerous. I think with the current situations, it's just a turnover battle. Whoever gets like the big turnover or can not turn the ball over more is gonna win the game.
You gotta hope the podcast's favorite player, Matthew Stafford, doesn't throw a pick six here.
If Matthew Stafford throws a pick six after I picked him to win again, I'm going to be very upset.
Amazing! Finally, Ian picks the team, and he's going to throw a pick six.
He won't let me down. I know it.
The Eagles got at least 3, if not 4 sacks on Brady last week.
I think it was 4. Yeah,
which is why I'm. If they can do that, I feel like this team should be able to get some consistent pressure.
It was also very odd because both Jensen and Wirfs kept playing after they got hurt. Like they put him out there again, I guess, to test to see how the ankle and how it was really weird to see them go back out there, and it was like you could see they couldn't really move well.
Wirfs particularly did not look comfortable.
Yeah, he couldn't really push off at all.
Did we talk about Bruce like smacking his dude in the head?
Oh God,
I don't know, man. I'm amazed they find him.
Yeah, I was like glad that they actually, did fine him. Even I think he's going to appeal it, but still, like, what was that?
I don't know.
I'm sure the football people, football players who've played before, most of them will be like, "Oh, it's no big deal, right?" Coaches do stuff like that every now and then to get our attention and blah blah. But it just looks so bad. Like, what are you doing, Bruce?
You know who
What are
saw
you
that
doing?
clip and were licking their chops?
AB.
Antonio Brown's lawyers. They were that was their favorite clip. That was their favorite play of the weekend.
We're gonna use that as evidence
Was
in the
that clip?
case.
Man, not a great look for Bruce.
Oh, dude.
Okay, well, currently we have I have Niners, Rams. You guys have Rams, Packers. I look forward to Packers, Buccaneers. It'll be great, and everyone will have a good time. Our final game, and also our final AFC game of the week. Probably the best game of the week on paper. Bills at Chiefs. I'm taking the Chiefs. I mean, and I'm going to keep taking the Chiefs until somebody beats them. I'm perfectly honest with you. I'm going to keep taking the Chiefs in every game until somebody beats them.
I'm going to take the Bills because I like the Bills. I feel like the Bills outplaying the Patriots is more impressive than the Chiefs outplaying the Steelers. And I know I shouldn't base it off of 1 week, but I'm going to base it off of 1 week. I think that if both of these teams play at 100%, the Bills' defense is just better than the Kansas City defense, and their offenses are like on par, even though the Bills, don't run as well. So I like the Bills. I just hope it's a really good game because on paper it's a really good game.
I'll take the Chiefs. Only because I feel like the Chiefs are like the offense especially are a very different team than they were early in the season. Where early in the season there was all this like, oh man, have people figured out the Chiefs? Have we finally figured out how to stop them? And I feel like throughout the season, particularly when they played the Raiders, they gained a lot of their confidence back. And their offense looked pretty good this past week. Yeah, it was the Steelers, so you can't take too much out of that, I guess. No offense, Steelers fans. But I do think they've figured some things out. Patrick has learned how to be more patient because you remember earlier in the season he was like, I hate playing like this. I hate having to play so slow. I want the big plays. I want to go deep down the field. But he's slowly learned and he's figured out. It's better doing that than us not scoring at all, bro. So I think they're a better team. The defense is also better than it was back then. Remember early in the season, the Chiefs' defense was atrocious.
And then it got really good. And then it got really good for some reason.
For some reason, it just turned around completely. And then I don't know if we can count on Superman Josh Allen every single week. Like he did it this past week. Can he do it again, back-to-back weeks? Let's see.
I mean, again, if he wants to go 2012 Flacco and just have like a ridiculous playoffs, I mean, then there you go. That's how they win this game.
Yeah.
Is if he just goes literally insane again. Then sure, I'll pick them if they win this week. I'm going to pick them next week. The winner of this game is the team I'm picking to go to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I am same here. I think this is the
pretty
much the AFC Championship game.
No love for the Titans. No love for the Titans.
Remember
the Titans.
It would be remarkably funny if the Bills won this game and then Derrick Henry ran for like 250 yards in the AFC Championship game. I will be honest, that would be very funny.
It would be entertaining, yes.
Long live the king.
Okay, well, so I have currently Chiefs, Titans. Carter has Bills, Titans, and Emmanuel, you also have Chiefs, Titans. And then, obviously, as I said earlier, I have Niners, Rams. Carter has Packers, Rams, and Emmanuel also has Packers, Rams. So none of us have the Bengals in the AFC Championship game, and none of us have the Buccaneers of all teams, the defending champions, in the NFC Championship game.
Tom's gonna put us on blast.
Yeah, that's gonna age great when it's Bills, Bengals, and 49ers, Buccaneers. Something like that. What do you think right now? It's my last question as we wind down here. Is the best Super Bowl matchup left on the board, and what is the worst Super Bowl matchup left on the board?
I am incredibly biased, but I'm gonna say Bills Packers. I just think you have like two fun offenses and fun defenses, and I think they would be pretty evenly matched. And they're both like super cold weather teams playing in fucking Los Angeles. Like, I don't know. That's the dream matchup for me.
You
But
don't think Chiefs Packers would be better? Or is that just because the Chiefs have made it a couple times the last few years, so you'd rather see the Bills?
I think Chiefs Packers would be like close to just as good, but I just prefer the Bills.
I think it's either those two or potentially like finally getting Chiefs Rams in the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl we should have gotten 3 years
Mm-hmm.
ago. The Bills again. The Bills, if the Bills are still alive when we're recording next week, they will have proved me wrong, and then I'll say, yeah, absolutely, the Bills will be fun. The Bills have been too inconsistent this year for me to be like, yes, the team that scored 40 points, scored on every possession, that's the Bills, and not like a team that could turn into the 2018 Rams where they get the Super Bowl and they score 10 points, and
I
they're
think the
ooh.
Bills have been better than people think because of all of the one score losses. Like they won every game they won by like 12 points or something like that, and they lost every one score game they're in. So like I feel like they did not play well during the regular season in some of those games, but I feel like they're better than maybe people think because of
They
those
uh
situations.
they took a big hit when they lost to the Urban Meyer-led Jags 9-0.
They did.
They did, yeah.
And then I think for me the worst matchup would be Niners Titans or like Tampa Bay. Like, see, the thing with Cincinnati is if Cincinnati's in the Super Bowl, it's the first time in like 40 years, so at least you have like that as a storyline. So I think maybe like Tampa Bay Tennessee would be kind of like, well, I mean, Tom's in it again, yay! Like, I don't know.
I think uh, Kansas City, San Francisco would be mine because we just had that matchup 2 years ago or however long ago, and I just think that Kansas City would roll the 49ers and it wouldn't be any fun. So,
Maybe.
although I agree with the Buccaneers Titans one too, that would equally. I think the Bengals getting in is just interesting, even though they're maybe not the best team to pick from in the AFC.
My favorite would probably be the all-time QB duel between Mahomes and Rodgers, which we were robbed of because Rodgers in his situation that 1 week.
Both
That
weeks.
yeah, that would probably be my favorite one. Pretty close would be Chiefs Rams, I think. That would be probably my second. And then worst would probably be something like Bengals versus Bucs or Bengals versus Rams. I just feel like those teams would be much better than the Bengals, and we get a bad game.
See, I was gonna say Niners Bengals, but that would be probably a decent game because they played an overtime game earlier this season.
Oh yeah, I think
No,
it'd
I
be
think
competitive
that
at
would be
least.
really fun.
But
'Cause we have
also it's a rematch of the Super Bowl the Bengals lost.
Ooh,
So it would be a whole sort of, a spiritual thing for the fan base at that point. Even though probably them making the Super Bowl at all would be a spiritual adventure for the fan base.
especially this early in Burrow's career. Like
Yeah,
this
well,
team has seasons to go, so
Kaepernick made a Super Bowl and then never made another Super Bowl, and Dan Marino made a Super Bowl and never made another Super Bowl. So
never forget Dan the Man. Peak too high.
first or
Aaron
second year they
Rodgers
made the Super Bowl.
the Super Bowl and then never made a Super
Yeah,
Bowl.
well, that was what his fourth or fifth year. When did he start playing? Oh no, it was like his third year. 08 was his first year.
It was pretty early.
08 was his first year, right?
I mean, he was in the league, but he was sitting behind Favre.
His first year is starting.
First year he started.
Well, I mean, also they won, so it's a little different, right? It's
Yeah.
I'm more speaking about the thing where you go to the Super Bowl with a young quarterback and you lose. It's like, oh, well, we'll be back, and then you never go back.
Yeah.
Which Dan Marino is the number one example of that. Well, I think they won his first or second year, and they never ever went back. Which is remarkable that like Trent Dilfer has a Super Bowl, but Dan Marino doesn't.
He was too ahead of his time, Dan.
Yeah, well. Anyway, I think that's all from us this week. Carter, do you have any soccer news to end the podcast?
Just that I hope we can beat El Salvador. I'm pretty sure it's El Salvador that we play next in the qualifying game, and we can, just get ahead of the game so it doesn't come down to that last couple qualifying matches for the U.S. and all of a sudden everything goes wrong and we don't qualify. Yada yada yada.
We'll hopefully have a better week of football this week than we did last week. Hopefully we get 4 very good games. That would be nice. And we're either going to come back next week to a very sad member of this podcast or the doomer version of a member of this podcast. So either way,
your only option.
It will be it'll be an adventure.
It'll be a treat.
Thank you guys for listening as always. We're now, as I said last week, on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So if you get your podcasts there, by all means follow, rate us, give us a 5-star rating. Even leave a review if you want. Hopefully it's a positive review. You can also leave a negative review, I guess, but we would prefer a positive review if you could.
Just be honest.
Yeah.
Listen,
Yes.
you can give us a 5-star review. I will personally tweet at you.
There you go. But thank you guys again for listening. Also, on YouTube, hit that subscribe button if you're still there. We're still on YouTube for now. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you next week.